Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me today is the whole team. Drew, how you doing, mate? Freshly back from holiday. How you going?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Good to be back.
Good, mate. It's great to have you. AJ, how you doing, mate?
I'm swimming. All good.
Except from that finger, which everyone would have
Well,
just
yeah.
noticed.
I won't hold that finger up specifically for monetization reasons.
Yeah. And Mozza, how you doing, mate?
I'm tremendous, thank you very much. Hay fever doing my head in, but that's my only complaint.
Yeah, it's a killer, mate. It is a proper killer. We're here today, obviously, to do our end of season awards. Before we get started, obviously, there's a couple of things that we wanted to talk about. We have had a couple of weeks off since the end of the season. I think we all needed that little bit of break before we did these awards because the season ended and quite a lot of us were frustrated. Let's say the least. We are planning on doing a season review. That's going to be separate from these awards, obviously. But we'll probably do that in the next couple of weeks, as you know, there's not much going on during this pre-season, especially as the transfer window shut during the Club World Cup, and there's not going to be much in terms of incomings for that. Um, we also have some plans to bring some stuff in. You would have seen our adverts for anyone who's interested to come and join Full-on. You know, if you want to join one of the panels like this or make your own Fulham content and just not quite sure where to start and want some advice on it, feel free to get in touch, and we can sort of try and accommodate that because we want to bring you all more Fulham content going into next season. It's our aim to sort of make sure that we're doing this more than twice a week as we are. We want to keep up the Fulham stuff, and I know all of us have more stuff than just games that we want to talk about. We want to talk about stuff that's actually going on at the club. Uh, we're here today, obviously, though, to we'll do the end of season awards, the first annual Badger Awards, the full-on podcast end of season awards. We have a few categories going through here. Basically, what we're going to do for anyone who wants to know the rules, this all four of us, get one vote each. If there's a tie, as the lead judge on this one, I will get the say on who the winner is. Not necessarily always going with my vote, by the way, for anyone comes at me for that. We'll start with the first award tonight, which is the Patrin Kasami Goal of the Season award. It's a tough one, lads, isn't it? Really hard one to pick.
Really hard.
Yeah,
I go for.
really hard. Mozza, you can go first on this one, mate. Do you want to give us your nomination for Goal of the Season?
Well, shock horror. Yeah, my nominee is Harry Expletive Wilson against Brentford with that totally like meant it with conviction back heel. Um, I mean, yeah, did it get better than that? I don't really think so. Other than when he scored another wonder goal against them away near the end of the season, but still, this was the best one. So that's my reason.
That's the one you're going for. It's good for me. It's good for me. AJ, how about yourself, mate? What's your goal of the season?
Who put the ball in the Brentford net? Harry Wilson. I'll be going for the exact same goal, the miraculous back heel, side foot, weird volley thing, majiggy, that it was entirely intentional and he meant 100% of the time. Beautiful goal, and one that will be, for anyone that isn't a Brentford fan, in five-a-side recreation territory for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's a fair shout, mate. Fair shout. And Drew, how about yourself, mate? Your nomination for Goal of the Season.
Well, it's a trifecta, isn't it? For our regular viewers and anyone joining us, we did not copy each other's homework. I promise you. We all arrived at this decision. I think what was special about it was the timing of it because we'd been hammering away at Brentford, who really, apart from their goal, offered nothing. And then Harry just pulled this goal out of nowhere, and it changed the course of the game. And yeah, I mean, it was. We've had a few good magical moments this season, but that was properly up there. So yeah, I picked his first goal in the home win against Brentford at the Cottage.
And then, unsurprisingly, my nomination for the Kasami goal of the season is Harry Wilson versus Brentford to make it 1-1 at 92nd minute at home. As Drew just said, we honestly haven't copied each other's work in this. I made sure that everyone gave me their results to this as I was putting it together separately, so no one knows what anyone's voted for and anything. But all four of us have come to the same conclusion with this one. I'd imagine as this one, the actual club's goal of the season, everybody else feels the same. There's no real other choice on this one. Luckily, this is one of those categories we can get out of the way nice and quickly as a show, because there will be some more competition, shall we say, with ones going forward. So the winner of the Patrick Kasami goal of the season is Harry Wilson for that lovely goal to make it 1-1 against Brentford in the 92nd minute. We'll move on to the next award, which is the Individual Performance of the Season award. Drew, would you like to start this one, buddy? Who have you voted for your Individual Performance of the Season?
This one was tough. For me. I went for Sander Berge at home to Arsenal, simply because it was the Alamo. Really, they had like 16 shots. I know 4 were on target, but it was really backs against the wall, and I know that we went 1-0 up, but Berge, I mean, he was immense in that midfield, and we would have got nothing out of that game without him. And I have to be honest, and this is probably me betraying my future picks, but I wanted to find somewhere for him because I think he's been one of our most underrated players, and probably arguably our signing of the season. But I don't want to jump ahead. But yeah, Berge at home to Arsenal. I thought he. Because Arsenal is so wonderfully talented. That midfield they've got. I mean, I mean, it's just full of stars. Saka and Rice and Odegaard and Partey and despite being outmanned, I thought he was immense. So yeah, and so that's who I picked.
It's a fair shout, mate. It's a fair shout. AJ, how about you, mate? Who have you voted for your performance of the season?
On a similar breath to the last one, it was actually Harry Wilson versus Brentford back in November. I know he didn't play the entirety of the game, but frankly, he came on the pitch and just changed it. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had that moment, that goal, that performance, and that result ultimately. And I don't think there's another player that could have been in his position with his technical ability that could have done what he did that night. So I have to give it to him.
Yeah. Also, if anyone who's watched the highlights of the game and listened to the Fulham commentary, it is the birth of some of the greatest in-house commentary you're ever going to hear when he scores the winner. Gentleman Jim, who's not necessarily known for being the most level-headed of commentators when it comes to trying to be on the fence. I urge everyone, go back and watch the highlights again. Not only because if you're having a bad day, it's always great to watch that game, but it is this joyous how Gentleman Jim reacts to that, and that alone probably makes the performance even better. So it's a fair shout. I'm not going to argue with it. Mozza, I'm going to go first on not being the second to last nomination on this one. My performance of the season is Bernd Leno against Man United in the FA Cup. It was a big result. I know we didn't necessarily do so well in the next round against Palace, but that game at Old Trafford was important for many, many reasons. Anyone who was at Old Trafford when we last played them in an FA Cup will know how many demons that had caused the Fulham fan base, let alone that squad. But he was absolutely excellent on the day, and anyone who knows, I'm not necessarily scared at criticising Bernd Leno on certain things that he does that he should be better at. But I thought he was absolutely superb in this day. He saved us 3 or 4 different occasions, really important last-ditch saves, especially as the game was coming to an end in the 90 minutes where, we could have easily lost to lost out to Man United before it even went to extra time. So for me, my individual performance of the season is going to be Bernd Leno. Mozza, how about yourself, mate? Who are you voting for individual performance of the season?
Well, I'm nominating Bernd Leno as well for the exact same reasons as you've just said, Ash. You've nailed it. I've got nothing to add to that. Will we still be calling him Poppadom wrists next season? When I say we, I mean you. But yeah, no, everyone deserves criticism at times. But yeah, that was a day where, for me, he just fully deserved, well, the individual performance of the season. So that's why he got my vote.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear. I do really like Bernd Leno. I think he's a great goalkeeper. I'm just sometimes wish he was better at shot stopping than he is. But that we're not gonna talk about that too much. Just before anyone comes at me about calling him Poppadom wrists. There's been a few moments. Okay, so the individual performance of the winners, season winner, is Bernd Leno versus Man United because of that performance. Obviously, me and Mozza both voted for him. I've had to choose between Sander Berg and Harry Wilson for silver and bronze place. I'm going to give the second place to Sander Berg. Harry Wilson's performance against Brentford was superb, but solely and purely because he'd only come on the pitch late on in the game anyway. Sander Berg was solid for 90 minutes. It's the only reason why I've gone that way, AJ. So I don't want you to feel too aggrieved at that, because all three of these performances are super, are absolutely superb, and they got us results in games that may not come if they didn't happen.
Agree.
We'll move on to the next category, which is player of the season. AJ, do you want to go first on this one, mate? Who's your nominee for player of the season?
It's the love of your life, Ash. It's big old Calvin Bassey. It had to be him. He's just been an absolute towering, consistent player all season. It was between two players for me. It was him or Robinson, but Robinson's drop off, albeit maybe because of his injury from January onwards, just clinched it for Calvin for me. It's just pure, consistently high levels throughout the entirety of the season. He's got to be everyone's, or nearly everyone's, first name on the team sheet, nearly one of the first names on the team sheet going forward for next season. So it has to be Calvin for me.
It's a fair shout, I think. Mozza, how about yourself, mate? Who is your player of the season nominee?
I voted for Ryan Sessegnon, and it's very much been a vote that has been led by my heart as opposed to my head. It's not a vote that I regret at all, but upon comparison, when you look at the amount of game time that he's had compared to most other players, it could be seen that I'm being a bit biased in that sense. But I'm obviously sticking with it. It's too late to change anyway, but that's not what I'm suggesting. When I say I've led this vote with my heart, I feel like his presence when he has come on and the moments that he's had in games and changed them has, just really brought a whole lot of spirit to the team and also the fans as well. So for those reasons alone, that's why I'm giving it to Ryan Sessegnon.
Yeah, it's a fair shout. I think there's an argument in terms of impact on the pitch and time played with him as well. So I completely understand why you would go with that, especially if you're going with your heart rather than your head. But we all love him, so there's going to be no arguments. Drew, how about yourself, mate? Who's your nomination for player of the season?
Well, it came down to the two that AJ mentioned, Bassey and Robinson, but I picked Robinson for the sole reason, ironically enough, not for the sole reason, but for one of the main reasons, was exactly what AJ said. His performance dropped off at the end of the season, but that's because he was injured. But he was still going out there and trying his hardest. And the reason ultimately I picked him over Bassey is because I felt that although Bassey was immense, we had adequate cover for him, because I think Cuenca did exceptionally well when he played. Whereas you take Robinson away from Fulham, and he's one of their most athletic and explosive players, and he also gives them something going forward. And we just don't have anyone that's close to being able to replace him. Defensively, I think he's got better. There've been blips, West Ham at home, obviously, but I thought in terms of his importance to the team, the fact that he was clearly carrying an injury towards the end of the season and not fit, but was out there as much as he could be, and the fact that he's so important to us on the offensive side of things is what is the reason I picked him over Bassi. But Bassi's immense. Bassi's immense, and I fear that sooner or later, and probably sooner, the rest of the league are going to wake up to exactly how good Bassi actually is. But right now, for the purposes of this season, I picked Robbo.
Yeah, I think again it's a fair shot. I think it's a very valid point. For me, this is probably one of the easiest categories for me to pick. Again, I've gone with my my heart and not my head. I've gone with Calvin Bassey. Everyone knows how much I love Calvin. I think he's a superb defender. I do also believe he's probably not utilised as much as Fulham could actually utilise him in the sense of his natural ability on his left hand side. But it was very close to me with him and Anthony Robinson. I know that sometimes I can be quite critical of Anthony Robinson, but the main reason why is because I know how good he actually is. And it's one of those times that sometimes I'm being critical because I think the performances he puts in just sort of aren't quite at the level that he can put out. But as we came to find out near the end of the season, it's probably understandable considering how long he'd apparently been injured for, and needed that surgery and put it off for. So it's understandable. We had the same thing with Castagna on the right, didn't we? That there was a lot of people criticising performances come to the end of the season. And then as soon as Kenny Tete comes back, we find out he's actually been injured for 3 months and playing on it. So it was very close for me, but I've gone for Calvin Bassey myself. Because of that, obviously the player of the season winner is Calvin Bassey. Naturally, I've gone with Anthony Robinson to come second and get the silver medal, and Ryan Sessegnon to come third. The main reason for that is obviously Calvin's got the most votes, but I just felt like Anthony Robinson's contribution to the squad as a whole was much more than Ryan Sessegnon's. As much as I love Ryan Sessegnon, and I think he's an outstanding player, and we all love him. If he'd had more minutes, it probably would have been a harder choice to pick that one. But I think over the season, Anthony Robinson's just been a bit more important to the actual playing squad than Cess has been. But that was a tough category to pick a player of the season this year because there was a couple of players that were really on par with each other, and there's a few players we haven't even mentioned that could have easily have got in on this conversation. But that's the way it crumbles when you got us got a lot going for it. Our next category that we'll move on to is the young player of the season. Now, we've gone for this. If anyone sees it and they go nuts at some of the votes to go for it, it's under 23 at the beginning of the season. So I'm going to go first on this one. My nomination for young player of the season is Rodrigo Muniz. I know we've got a lot of young players coming through that are really, really showing a lot of potential. But for a player of his age who had a difficult start to his life at Fulham, and yes, I know he impressed come the end of last season before this one that was just gone has come about. I feel like he really stepped up a gear this year. I know that his injury probably came at the worst time for it to come, and he missed a few games because of it. I genuinely feel that Rodrigo is a proper talent. I think he has the right mentality. We have to look at him in the sense of, a bit old school in terms of strikers, where you look at things and you go that most strikers don't really reach their full potential until they're about 26, 27. And then if we're somehow going to be lucky enough to get 3 more years of him getting better and better to reach that, we're going to be in for a ride because, not only is he one of the nicest lads in the squad, he clearly loves playing for Fulham. He's put in some performances this year that have just been absolutely outstanding. I'm not going to go too much into that because obviously we have got individual performances and stuff like that and goal of the season and stuff we'll talk about, and I know he's in those, so we'll go from there. Drew, how about yourself, buddy? Who have you gone for young player of the season?
Well, Josh King, simply because every time we saw him, he was exciting. every time we saw him, and he was probably one of the. Again, I don't want to stray too far off point, but one of the biggest frustrations of this season is we didn't see more of him because he looks like the next big thing, potentially having a bigger impact than Sessegnon did when Sessegnon burst through. He looks like he can play that attacking central midfielder role, and he appears to give us something that we don't have a lot of, and that's the ability to run at people from central positions. He's just exciting. There's going to come a time where people will literally be, if it all goes well, barring, and I hope he has a wonderful career, but if he fulfills his potential, there's going to come a point where people will be paying simply to watch him because he is that good. I take all the points about Muniz, and Ash, you said it the best. It was really, really sad he got injured when he did. But I took Young to be the youngest, and for that reason, I picked Josh King.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair shout. There was some discussion in my head about Rodrigo myself because he's been a senior player for so long, whether or not he would count, but he just snuck him age-wise, so that's why I went with him. AJ, how about yourself, mate? Who's your vote for young player of the season? You're on mute, mate.
I really generally hate saying this because I think that it should be an under-21 award, not an under-23 award. In modern day football, players at the age of 23 tend to have played 3, maybe even 4 full seasons at that point, and it's kind of no longer a young player in football terms. But I've had to go with Rodrigo Muniz sheerly because of the way that Fulham are. We don't give enough of our youth talent minutes. I agree with everything Drew said about Josh King, but for the same reasons I couldn't vote Sessegnon for player of the season personally, I can't vote Josh King young player of the season. He purely hasn't had enough minutes. The positive, I can't vote for Rodrigo Muniz next season, so with him now being 24.
That's a fair shout, mate. That's a fair shout. And Mozza, how about yourself, buddy? Your vote for young player of the season?
Well, chaps, looks like in this round we are heading our way to a Desmond, aren't we? Because my vote is also for Josh King. Same as Drew's. I don't have anything more to add on top of what Drew said, apart from another word that begins with the first 2 letters, EX. Explosive.
Well done, mate. I'm really regretting teaching you what a Desmond was because you tried to push it a little bit too.
In there somewhere.
Yeah, okay. So young player of the season, purely and solely because I'm a selfish bastard and I got the vote. I've gone for Rodrigo Muniz and Josh King to come second, but I will add is exceptionally close for me, this one. The only reason why I went with Rodrigo over Josh is because of minutes played and impact on the team. I do completely agree with everything Drew said about, looking lively, looking exciting every time he comes on the pitch. Josh is definitely there. If he was lucky enough to be given more minutes by the manager, then he would have probably won this award hands down by a country mile. But it's just, for me, that was the differentiating factor between them. If any of you have got any arguments to why I'm wrong with that, then that's absolutely fine. But that's the only reason why I went in this order. We're going to move on to the next award, which is the Most Underappreciated Player of the Season award. Mozza, would you like to go first on this one, mate?
Well, to any people that have watched our previous pods and where we've spoken about this individual, they'll know how much appreciation that we've given him when we've talked about him. My nominee is Timothy Castagne, purely because of, I guess, did he have a choice or not for the amount of games he had to play? Was there anyone to replace him? That's another kettle of fish. But with Tete being injured and him being in that position, he might not have always been the best player on the pitch, but I feel like his work rate was always consistent and he always gives it his all 100% of the time. And I don't really hear him talked about enough amongst other Fulham fans around the cottage when I'm there even. And I just think credit where credit's due, rather. I have to give this one to him.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. AJ, yourself, mate, who's your nominee for most underappreciated player of the season?
Actually, it's Joachim Andersen, mostly because everyone seems to be pushing a lot of hate onto him at the moment, and I think they've very quickly forgotten what it was like having no attention span tossing at the back, and how much of a drastic improvement Joachim Andersen actually has been. Has he been perfect? No. Has he had an injury spell that he was rushed back from? Yes. Did that impact his return? Yes. Has he had a constant change of right backs between Tete and Timmy Castagna, making it more difficult for him to control that right hand side? Also, yes. And I think like he's statistically got the top the top stat for successful long passes this season, which is an incredible achievement and exactly why we played him bought him to give us that option of playing out from the back more directly. And frankly, I just think that he doesn't get the appreciation that he deserves. I don't think he's been perfect. I don't think he's been anywhere near player at a season level. I don't think he's even been as good as he was when he was with us in his previous spell. But I think he's been a drastic improvement on what we had last season. And that's like what we signed him for. And I don't think he gets enough love for that. So, yeah, that's my pick, Joachim Andersen. And I imagine a lot of people won't agree with that, which probably makes him underappreciated.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout, mate. Drew, and yourself, mate, who's your vote for most underappreciated player of the season?
I hear the arguments about Anderson, but Anderson's much more high profile and has probably got more obvious ability than my choice. And my choice, as per Mozza, was Timothy Castagna. The reason being, Mozza's already highlighted this, and it ties in with Silva's preference for a small squad. When Tete went down, the burden fell unfairly, in my view, to Castagna, and he was heroic throughout the season, especially when it transpired that he was playing injured. The performance for me that probably encapsulates him is Newcastle away, when we talked about it and how difficult the first half was for him versus Gordon, but he stuck to his task and got a grip of him in the second half. He was asked to play too much, and he was asked to do too much. But come rain, wind or shine, he never disappeared on us. And for that reason, I picked him as our probably most underappreciated player. The other reason, possibly, is that sometimes I feel that he suffers in comparison with Kenny, who everyone adores. But we are in a lucky position where we've got two very serviceable right backs. The only problem, and Ash and our regular viewers be well aware, is that they're both getting older. But that is a different conversation. I don't want to go there. So stick to the category. So yeah, as with Mozza, who articulated everything brilliantly, I voted for Timmy as well.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things, right? That for me, my vote is also Timothy Castagna. I think that he came in very difficult situation for a player like him, who hasn't had loads of game time. He's having to come in for arguably one of the fan favourite players who's gone down on a long injury. He gets injured himself sometime in December, but the club are pushing for him to play. There are some arguments there that if he injured himself in December, why we didn't bring anybody in January to give him some rest is beyond me. But that's a conversation we'll have at another point, naturally, especially when we come to reviewing the season. But I think that he, for me, is the most unappreciated because he gets a lot of flack. And I think an awful lot came to light. A lot of people changed their view on the performances he had once Tete came back and the news came out about him being injured and having to go straight for surgery. Just how much of the ringer he was putting himself through in order to give performances to the team, and for that alone is the reason why I voted for him. But I'm actually in agreement with AJ as well in terms of Anderson, in the sense of he does get. I think he gets an unfair amount of hate for the performances he puts in. I think that's mainly because an awful lot of us watched him on TV play for Fulham last time he was here, and the performances aren't quite up to the same level, and that may be hindering a little bit. But for me, it had to be Timothy Castagna. Obviously, that means the winner of this award is Timothy Castagna with 3 votes to 1, and then Anderson in second place. Don't think there's much more to say other than obviously that's just the way the votes fell on that one. I think we're going to the first sort of slightly negative award of the of the show, which is the most overrated player of the season. Drew, I'm gonna let you start with this one, mate, because I know you have a strong. In fact, if anyone wants to know a little look behind the curtain, when I sent these questions out to everyone, asked them to send me back their answers, Drew wrote this guy's name down 4 different ways, and then in capitals. So I think he's pretty sure of the person he's voting for. Who's your vote for most overrated player of the season?
Pereira, Andreas Pereira, AP, A Pereira, Pereira Andreas. How he keeps getting into the team every goddamn week is absolutely beyond me. Only exceeded by the fact there are Fulham fans that think he contributes. What? I do not know. But OMG. Really? In between his unfailing, uncanny ability to always hit the first man at the corner, to couldn't hit a cow's ass with a banjo with a free kick, to his little flicks that hardly ever come off. He's run his course at Fulham. And I got to be honest, the week leading up to the Spurs game, Ash, where we ended up doing our preview, and we spent 20 minutes talking about his goddamn interview that he claimed was taken out of context about him whoring himself to Marseille, only for the journalists to publish the whole thing, was the nail in the coffin for me. Jesus Christ, I was about to start a GoFundMe page, to buy that mofo a ticket to Brazil myself. I just don't get it. How he's getting what Ancelotti is seeing to put him in the Brazil squad, mate. I'm telling you now, if he thinks Andreas Pereira is the answer, to his problems, I want to know what his goddamn problems are, because they ain't going anywhere with Pereira playing in the number 10 role. You think of all the great Brazilian players they've had. We can list them. Everyone knows who they are, and then put Andreas Pereira's name next to him. You can properly do one. So, Pereira, Andreas Pereira, AP, call him what you want. But he better be leaving this off-season, man. Because he will become, mate, I'm going to get banned for the illegal shit I'm going to do in the Johnny Haynes stand if he's still in a white shirt come August. Man, you are going to have to get a binding resolution from the UN to stop me going nuclear. They will put extra police. The Met policing unit will be staked out in the Johnny Haynes stand if he is still here in a white shirt in August. I will be doing my nut. Apart
I would
from that-
like to add allegedly to all of what he said above, just so that he doesn't get a
this is
stadium
shut
ban.
up, shut up, Mozza. Shut up. Sorry, AJ. This is clear intent, motherfuckers. You know, this is clear intent. I want the Fulham Brain Trust to listen to me because I am serious. I've renewed. I will be there opening day, and if he is, it's going.
And not
off.
a day afterwards, by the sounds of it.
But anyway,
Yeah.
did I mention Andres Pereira as my vote for this particular category?
Right, cool. So I'm pretty sure Drew knows who he was voting for.
I
Mozza,
knew I was
how about
voting for at the
yourself, mate?
beginning of the season, man.
Mozza, how about you, mate? Who's your vote for most overrated player of the season?
Can we hear more from Drew? I just want to know how he really feels.
No, that's my therapy session for the week.
Right. I'm glad we've got an air of levity about this round because it is a bit awkward, especially for me right now. My vote is for Joaquin Anderson, AJ. Joaquin Anderson. Anderson Joaquin. I don't hate him, right? And I actually felt a bit unfair giving him this one. I want to use the word disappointing this season, but I'm not going to stray as well. We'll get to that, and there's a very good reason why I can't vote Anderson for that one. So I have to say overrated. And I actually did rate him. Obviously, in his first spell with us, I'll be honest, I wasn't that excited about him coming back. I don't know. I just thought he'd had his time with us. I don't know. It's like when they remake a classic movie after 30 years, or these bands like break up and then they get back together and then they release an album, or this remade movie is done. It's never as good as the first time round. And that kind of feels a bit like using that Anderson's had for me so far. I do think he's a great player still. I don't know if he's got a touch of lack of confidence, but for me, there have been some awful mistakes that he's made. And I've got high hopes for him still, so I hope he can return to form next season. But yeah, I just want him to pick his head up a bit more because I think he's still got it in him. But guys, I'm a Fulham fan. My glass is always half empty, so there's my reasoning.
I would say your glass is always 3/4 empty, but it's fine. Fair enough. Fair enough. AJ, who's your vote for most overrated player of the season, please?
I'm going to expect quite an outrageous reaction to this, very similar to the reaction I just gave Mozza. Although Mozza gave very valid points, and it's kind of hard to argue with him at this point. Mine is actually Reece Nelson. Not because I don't think he's a talent before anyone gets aggressive with me, but because we saw very little of him and then he got a serious injury. And he's only managed to contribute for what was paying him quite a lot of money in wages, 1 goal and 1 assist before getting injured. Was he very direct? Was he better than the other options we had? Absolutely. Is he worth the potential wages and cost of buying him compared to other alternatives in the market? Maybe not. That's a discussion for a couple of weeks' time when we talk about transfer rumours, etc. But I think the amount of hype, pure hype that he got all over the Fulham fan base and social media for what ultimately was a traditional mid-table winger. He wasn't lighting things up. He wasn't a Wisa. He wasn't an Mbabu. He wasn't lighting things on fire, turning himself into something that we're going to look at spending 40, 50 million quid on if we wanted to buy him. He's good. He was better than what we had. But what we have is championship level wingers anyway, and subsequently, because Reece Nelson got injured, a 37-year-old or 36-year-old or whatever. I think we can. I think we can do better. I think. Thank you for your time. I'm sorry about your injury. I hope the recovery goes well. But I don't think he's as good as the fan base are making out. I'm sorry. I think there's a player in there. I think maybe he could be in a few years, but he's just not at the moment. and thus purely down to the definition of overrated, he's overrated for me. Do I think it's good? Yes, sure.
Yeah, I think we already know that I don't agree with that with Reece Nelson, but I completely understand your logic and your thinking of it, because if would he be a player I'd be disappointed in the sense of the output to the hype? Yes, because of the fact we lost him through injury when he was starting to look really, really good. I completely understand it, so there won't be an argument there. For me, my vote for most overrated player of the season is Andreas Pereira. It's not a difficult one. I've had enough of watching him, as Drew says, hit the first man from every corner. I've had enough of him taking every free kick but not hit the target for 2 years. I've had enough every time he goes through a 3-game sticky spell. Suddenly he's linked to another club around Europe just so his agent can keep his name fresh and hyped and looking nice and good. We already know I don't like the person who represents him agent-wise, because I think he's a bit of a scourge on football because it's the type of stuff he does. But watching Andreas Pereira wear a Fulham shirt, watching him mess up chance after chance, is one of the most frustrating things I've ever had to do. And I've watched Ashley Jazz Ridges play for Fulham. So we'll leave it there with him. My little boy said to me, "I want to play number 10 for Fulham when I'm older," and I told him, "Just watch what Andreas Pereira does and do the complete fucking opposite," because that's it, really, isn't it? We'll go through to the winner of this award. Unsurprisingly, the most overrated player of the season is Andreas Pereira. I've gone. I know, AJ. I could not put Reece Nelson down as second place on that one, for the reasons exactly what Mozza said with Anderson. I think the height behind the player there is, and the heights he's reached this season haven't quite matched up. And the main reason why I've gone for Nelson third is because I felt that if he didn't get injured when he got injured, we probably would have been very happy with the output that he gave us this season. But it was closer than just silver and bronze. It's one of those things, isn't it? We'll go through what I think could be another really difficult one for us to choose, guys. And again, I want everyone to know who's watching this. We're not necessarily saying that this player should be hung, drawn, and quartered. It's just the award it is. It's the biggest disappointment of the season award. AJ, do you wanna go first on this one, mate?
Emile Smith Rowe. Enough said. I don't think I need to explain it. And if I do need to explain it, you're not watching Fulham. Sorry. If you are a Fulham fan watching this and you do not believe that the biggest disappointment of the season is Emile Smith Rowe, please start watching Fulham play football. Thank you.
Fair enough. My vote for biggest disappointment of the season is Emile Smith Rowe for the exact same reasons. I think the hype and the price tag haven't quite matched. I will say that because I always feel like I have to caveat by saying it whenever I talk about Smith Rowe, I do really believe there's a player in there. I believe at some point we're going to see this potential break out, and we'll sit and we'll see what's there. I just don't think he's reached it this season. If he has another season next season like he has had this season, we'll be having conversations amongst us if it's the worst money we've spent since Petroglu, and that says an awful lot. It's a very disappointing season from him. He's had moments where he's been absolutely brilliant, but those moments where he's been absolutely brilliant have not even remotely weighed up to the games where he's been just non-existent. So he has to be my vote for that reason. Drew, how about yourself, mate? Who's your vote for biggest disappointment of the season?
ESR, for all the reasons that have been described. He was our marquee signing, and you feel that Silva has really nailed his colours to the ESR mast, and it's going to be quite interesting, Ash. And I know that we are likely to talk more about this in depth when we do the season preview. But if ESR plays next season like he did the last season, I think he could become a real albatross around Silva's neck. He was bought to play the alpha role, but I don't believe he's got the alpha mentality. I agree. There's a player in there. I mean, he's got some exceptional skill, and when you see him do some of the stuff he does, you sit there thinking, you can see how he got through at Arsenal, but those moments are few and far between. And with his sort of talent, he really should be able to affect games more than he does. I am praying, because he comes across as a really nice guy, you know. I am praying that he finds himself, you know, and is able to express himself in his second season, because I really want him to succeed. Because if he's playing to his potential, it gives our team a completely new dimension. But for the marquee signing, which he was, it's harsh, but I can only conclude that he is our biggest disappointment.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And lastly, Mozza, who's your vote for biggest disappointment of the season?
This is going to surprise you, but my nominee is Emile Smith-Rowe. I've got nothing to add, really, lads. It is a disappointment. It's a very frustrating player to watch as well, but he actually looks a bit frustrated himself. I don't know what the answer is. I hope he can turn it around in this pre-season. Yeah, I fully believe there's a player there. Got high hopes from him again. Want to see him do well. So, yeah, got to try and keep fingers crossed for that one.
Okay, cool. So obviously the winner of the biggest disappointment of the season is Emile Smith-Rowe. I think that we all need to just like double mention that, not necessarily saying that, you know, Fulham should pump and dump him and get rid of him. It's more just a case of, you know, the level of player we know, that because we've seen the spurts where there's a player there. It's just he needs to get that consistency levels up, you know. And I think I've lost count of the amount of times this season, whilst doing match reviews and doing previews, where we've mentioned that, you know, when you go to battle in those games where you're struck, where you've got to fight, he isn't the player you want by your side, you know. And I think that if he could get that a bit more, he needs a bit of a mean streak, get that mean streak in him, and do that. He's one hell of a player. He's just not. He's disappointed in the performances this season. I think it's as simple as that. It's not necessarily us saying that get rid of him. It's more just saying that we're most disappointed in the performance that he's given. So we'll leave it there. We'll move on to the next award, which is the signing of the season. Mozza, I think we're going to start with you on this one, mate. Who's your signing of the season?
So, my nomination goes to Sana Berg. It was almost interchangeable with the round we had earlier of most underappreciated player, but I don't think Berg is underappreciated. I think everyone knows full well like how good we've got it. To the point of I think it's almost surprising how well he's adapted and how well he's kept the team, like players around him, afloat. His control in that midfield, you know, sort of filling the gap, the Polina gap, and propping up Sasha Lukic as well. Sasha Lukic actually came close to being a bit of a disappointment for me in the last round. I appreciate he had that injury, but yeah, Lord knows where we would be without Berg, like fully taking on sort of that role, adapting with Lukic without him. I'm trying to think if I've really seen him have a terrible performance this season. I don't think I have really. So yeah, for the first season with us, I think he is a real asset and a very exciting player. And in contrast to someone like Emile Smith-Rowe, when he's on the pitch, when he's in the starting 11, I'm filled with confidence. I'm excited, and I think that like aura of him is infectious to the people around him. So yeah, Soderberg's my vote.
Yeah, it's a fair shout. Drew, how about yourself, mate? Who's your vote for signing of the season?
Oh, well, I dropped a clanger here because I already alluded to it earlier, but yeah, it's Sander Berge. It was quite interesting that before he came to Fulham, Manchester United were looking at him, and United fans, as they want to do, turn their noses up at him. But then after they saw him play, they were starting to wonder if they'd made a mistake. I think that he has done everything we've asked him to do. He has, in my view, been unfairly criticised for not scoring enough goals. But I think we have asked him to play a different role. And people will say, yeah, but Polinia played that role and he scored goals. But with the best will in the world, and I love Sander Berge, no one's confusing him with João Polinia. And if we were to move Sander Berge further forward into the 8 and asked him to drive at defences and run through beyond the strikers, you'd see him score more goals. And for what we paid for him, obviously it was, what was it, 20? Was it 20? AJ, what was it, 23 million? Was it, or something, 20 million?
Oh, caught me off guard there. Not
I think
entirely sure,
at
but
least 20.
somewhere around that range. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
1 second while I step into my office and find out.
you consider what other players have cost in the Premier League and what we've got out of him. I think he's been fantastic. And he's
25,
really, it took him some time to get into his stride, but arguably he was, I go so far as to say, especially with the Wobie's drop off in the second half of the season, he was probably our most influential midfielder. So yeah,
I think that
Sander Berge for me.
100% think that's a fair shout. To be fair, I don't think you're going to find many arguments. AJ, I know you're just currently looking up how much we paid for him, but while that's all loading, who's your nomination for signing of the season?
Well, it is actually him for outstanding 23.55 million euros, which I think is an absolute bargain for what he is, and less than what it actually cost Sheffield United to bring him into the country in the first place. So I think we've got an absolute steal there. We also took him off of Scott Parker, which is an extra bonus. Frankly, he's just done everything brilliantly. In regards to sort of alluding to what Mozza suggested in terms of underappreciated, I don't think it was, as he said, it's not a matter of underappreciation. I think we all appreciate how good he is and what he's done. I think it's a matter of underutilization. We're playing him very, very deep to try and almost cover for that Paulinho role. And I think he's got so much more going forward to give in controlling the tempo of the midfield that we're going to see more and more out of him after each game passes, especially if the rumours are true and we bring back Paulinho or sign someone similar to him, because that will just completely change the midfield and the role that Sander Berge gets to utilise in that midfield. And it's going to be so exciting to see. So for me, he has to be signing of the season. He wasn't a far off shout for being player of the season for me, if it wasn't for the fact that he had a slight dip here and there, but his consistency levels are just so good, and he's doing a job that it isn't even necessarily his natural job. So for that, I have to applaud him. I have to say he's my signing of the season.
Yeah, I'm going to add, only because he isn't my vote for signing of the season, that Drew did allude to it a little bit, that I think he's unfairly compared to João Polinia in the sense of João can defend and attack. That's not what Sander Berge was brought in to do. I think what Sander Berge's been brought in to do is build a very solid partnership with Sasha Lukic, and I think they've done a brilliant job together. Yes, they haven't had a shot on target all season, but that's not their job. Their job is to protect the defence and get the ball forward to whoever's playing at number 10 to do the work, whether that be, AP or to ESR, and that hasn't quite worked. I felt like if AP and ESR had contributed more in terms of goals this season, no one would even mention that Sander Berge and Lukic haven't had a shot on target, because they'd realise more that that's just not their jobs. For me, my signing of the season, I've gone full Mozza. I've gone 100% with my heart and not with my head, and I've gone for Ryan Sessegnon. Emotionally, he's probably up there with one of the best signings Fulham have ever made for me. There's moments this season, and we'll get on to talk about that, where Sess has really sort of solidified why we all love this football club, why we all love football. There's been emotional moments with Ryan Sessegnon this season that have just, really filled you up as a fan. Yes, he could have played more. Yes, he could have done. Yes, he could have, not have to play left back here and there. But no one can turn around and say that every time he didn't step on the pitch, he didn't give absolutely everything he had. And that's proven by the fact that he scored goals. He's contributed to the team. He's looked fit again, which has been absolutely amazing. And it's just one of seeing Ryan Sessegnon smile while on the pitch in a Fulham shirt makes me smile. So without doubt, Ryan Sessegnon was my vote for signing of the season, and that's just me gone full soppy rather than who's contributed the most on the pitch. Obviously, the winner of this award is Sander Berg. No argument really for me. I think it's a great choice by all three of you for signing of the season. Cesc with the silver medal, but again, that's only because I feel like emotionally he was the signing of the season. But on the pitch, Sander Berg, no argument whatsoever. Going to move on to the next award, which is moment of the season. AJ, you want to go first on this one, mate?
Yeah, I was torn between two. One being my winner, which is Rodrigo Muniz versus Chelsea. I think it was an exceptional moment. It technically was the goal amazing. Was it a Harry Wilson versus Brentford his first goal that won goal of the season for all of us? Not really, but it's the pure emotion of winning at Stamford Bridge in the final minutes that did it for us. Was it Stamford Bridge?
Yep.
Yeah, it was. Cool. Just had to double check that one in my head for a second. And for me, it's just had to be it. The other moment was pure emotion, but because it didn't necessarily mean as much as beating Chelsea, I kind of had to drop it down a peg, and that was Sessegnon scoring against Spurs. I think just the audacity of that goal, and then the non-celebration was just perfect. It was just in front of the cottage, and it will be what dreams are made of in terms of young Fulham fans for years to come. So it was tough, but I had to give it to Rodrigo just because of who it was against, when it was scored, and just how that entire match went down for us.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout, mate. Drew, how about yourself, mate? What's your vote for on-field moment of the season?
In a season of firsts, our highest ever position, I too went for the Muniz winner at Stamford Bridge because we hadn't won there for decades. We showed everything that was positive about the team that night. And it was interesting going back, looking at the commentary again. And I forget who the commentator was. Was it Ian Dark or whoever it was? Completely misread the rhythm of the game, because when Fulham scored, up until in the lead up to that, there was only one team that believed they could win, and it was it was obviously capped by Muniz scoring the goal, but it was everything that led up to it. We weren't the favourites. We hadn't won there for decades. They're chasing Europe. They've got a squad that's worth £6.5 billion. They've got a bench that's worth £480 million. They've got a WhatsApp group that's worth £360 million. You know what I mean? And yeah, it was just a moment that all Fulham fans will remember for a very long time. So yeah, that was my standout moment.
Yeah, I think it's a fair shout. Mozza, how about yourself, mate? What's your vote for moment of the season?
My vote for moment of the season is exactly the same as Drew's and AJ's. Winning at Stamford Bridge. So I won't ramble on too much about it. I don't have a lot more to add. I just echo what you two guys have said. It was the whole moment. Like the game itself wasn't just the goal, but not winning there for all that time. And is there anything better than beating Chelsea when you're a Fulham fan? Well, it's nice to see it at Craven Cottage, but it's a little bit sweet as well if it's at that, whatever you want to call it, place. This might surprise you though. I am actually an emotional man. Drew will know what I mean. But I cried, when the whistle blew at the end of that game. It's so hard to keep a straight face here. But the reason why I'm saying this is also because AJ mentioned Sessa's goal. So I just want to give a shout out to that in the game that he came on against Spurs at the Cottager. Also thoroughly cried my 35-year-old eyes out to that as well. So, but yeah, I said I wouldn't ramble.
To be fair, that was special because that confirmed that he was back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I can see why you're talking about that, Mozza. Fair play.
AJ, mate, you got something to add there, mate?
Yeah, going forward from next year onward, can we rename this the Mozza Tears moment of the season?
the emotional Mozza moment
I'll
of the
create
season.
a new award. I'll create a new award. My vote for moment of the season on field is Harry Wilson's winner against Brentford. I was exceptionally
Which one?
so close between this one and Rodrigo Muniz winner at Stamford Bridge. I went for Harry Wilson's goal mainly because I was at that game. If Fulham haven't completely ballsed up their way they sold tickets for Boxing Day, many more fans would have been at that Chelsea game that actually should have been there rather than the way that they sold them. So sadly, that ruined it slightly for me. But Harry Wilson's winner against Brentford is by far my on-field moment of the season, just because of, as nice as it is beating Chelsea, because their fans don't really, they treat us a bit different. They treat us a little brotherish, which is annoying, but it's not that bad. I can't stand Brentford fans, so shutting them up will always take precedent over, beating Chelsea for me, because the sooner they get back in their box or, their Lego box, the better. Because, as I said when I was talking about goal of the season, go back and listen to the commentary of Gentleman Jim when this winner goes in. It is this is how every Fulham fan feels you're ever going to have when listening to a bit of commentary, and it's absolutely superb. But I won't argue with you guys. Moment of the season, Rodrigo Muniz winner against Chelsea on Boxing Day at Stamford Bridge. Outstanding moment for Fulham, isn't it? It is what it is. I don't really think were any of us alive last time we won at Stamford Bridge. It is what it is. Drew was probably still in long shorts. I don't know. But that's about it. Harry Wilson's winner for me, wins silver medal, but that's natural with that the way this goes in. The next award is this could only happen to Fulham. It's a frustrating award, this one, because when we were sat down and we had to think about the winner of this one, I was inundated with memories of stuff this season, which was frustrating and made me want to jump off a cliff. Or Putney Pier, depending on which way you want to look at it. Mozza, let's go with you on this one, mate. What's your vote for this could only happen to Fulham?
So my nominee is our defeat to Preston in the Carabao Cup with the 34 penalties, which didn't feel like a lifetime at all. Losing 16-15, I believe. And that really is something that could only happen to Fulham. And I'm not going to say any more because I might smash up my laptop.
Yeah, it's arguably my vote for this could only happen to Fulham is also the same thing, losing on penalties to Preston. I've never watched a penalty shootout where it's gone on for so long. I'm hoping we miss and lose because it was so bad. And it was really frustrating, but it is what it is, isn't it? Drew, how about yourself, mate? What's your vote for this could only happen to Fulham award of the season?
It's the penalty shootout at Preston North End. I mean, Oh, Fulham penalties. We went through the Mitrovic experiment, didn't we? The hit and the hope. Then we had Andreas Wonderboy Pereira. Yeah. Despite the fact we had Raul and Lukic in the squad, no one, and I mean no one, saw us scoring 15 penalties. Yeah. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. It will never happen again unless we are guaranteed to lose. I mean, you couldn't get more Fulham. I mean, that was peak Fulham. I just laughed. I just thought, yeah, that is us. That is us. I mean, what can I say? They were some of the best penalties I've ever seen, especially I think it was Berge's one.
Outstanding.
I mean, and 15 straight, and we still managed to lose. I mean, what do you say to that?
Fulham.
I don't even have the vocabulary for that, man.
No,
So,
the
yeah,
only thing you can say is Fulham.
peak Fulham, man.
Like, score 15
So-
penalties, still lose the penalty shootout. Fulham. It's quite simple, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, that was Preston North End away in the cup.
Fair enough, mate. That's been a fair shout. AJ and yourself, mate. The This Could Only Happen to Fulham award. Your nominee.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't have many memories to recall on, and actually completely forgot that Preston game happened. Maybe that says something about my subconscious blocking out awful memories, because otherwise I'd really struggle to be a Fulham fan. Who knows? But I just went with the fact that we dropped 28 points from winning positions and cost ourselves potentially a place in like Champions League football because of that. And that is something that, frankly, only Fulham are capable of, especially at that latter end of the season where we're just like, we had a match preview where we didn't really talk about the match and mostly spoke about where Fulham could end up being. And I think at that point, we were 2 points away from Champions League places. How the fuck we bottled that so badly, I have no idea. Like, it was catastrophically bad. And I can't think of anything more Fulham than having a Champions League performance up until Christmas and then a championship performance from Christmas to the end of the season. It's just that's Fulham all over it. But I also admit and concede that I forgot about the pure shenanigans that was that Preston game, probably for the benefit of my mental health. So there you go, lads.
Yeah, I don't think there's any argument to that, to be fair, mate. I think 28 points dropped is so frustrating for Fulham this year. You know, the only redeeming feature is the fact we won 21 points from losing positions, but 28 from winning it's not good enough for a team that should be pushing for Europe or wants to be pushing for Europe. With that, the This Could Only Happen, the Fulham award goes to the game at Preston, losing on penalties after scoring 15 straight, after 34 penalties by chance, and then dropping 28 points out of the frustration comes in second place. The game of the season nominees. Now, this one, this was a hard one for me because there's been a lot of really good performances for Fulham this year. One of the things that we all love for Marco Silva is that he's managed to make us really perform in big games. So I know that there's going to be a lot going into this one. But Drew, I'm going to start with you with this one, mate. What is your vote for game of the season?
Game of the season, same as moment of the season, 2-1 win at the Bridge. The reason that I picked it, and we had some cracking games, this season. Games against Liverpool, obviously. The reason I picked it is because of what we had to overcome in that game. You know, it wasn't all plain sailing for us, and it was a game where it was back and forth. I mean, we've all talked over the season. Fulham have played parts of games. Like they've been good for 20 minutes and then they've gone in the tank. Whereas this game was a lot more even. It was back and forth. And Fulham stuck to their guns throughout, and every part of the team had to contribute. And when I say part of the team, I'm talking about defence, I'm talking about midfield, I'm talking about attack. And it was the all-round collective effort and application and performance, which is why I picked it. And I thought it was a credit to the playing staff and the management, because as the game got longer, Fulham got stronger, and really it was a testament to their energy levels and their mindset at the time. And it was really pleasing to see, because as Ash, unfortunately, we've talked about, there's been a few times this season where we've been more than flat. We've literally got, the Villa game being the classic example, where we just fell off a cliff for 30 minutes. But as an overall game, I picked the Chelsea game.
Fair enough shout for me, mate. Fair enough shout for me. Mozza, how about yourself, mate? What's your vote for game of the season?
So my vote is victory at home against Liverpool, 3-2. I wish I could sort of counter the way Drew's just put it, performance-wise, how we played against Liverpool compared to that Chelsea game. But I think for me, and again, I have sort of gone with my heart a little bit as well, because I think I had hoped that we would beat Chelsea away. Whereas this game, it was at a point in the season, was it the week before, we'd just been knocked out by Crystal Palace in the FA Cup. It was looking less and less likely with our positioning in the table if we would get into Europe. So I think everyone was just feeling a bit down in the dumps. And when you play a team like Liverpool, or what we call one of the top six, or on paper as well, you just think it's a write-off. Like, you don't expect any points from a game like that. So it was just a really nice, pleasant surprise. And I think, well, the beauty of hindsight, look, we finished where we finished at the end of the season, but at the time it kind of felt like there was still a little bit of hope, because you think, if you can beat the league champions, and at that point, they hadn't actually won the Premier League, but everyone knew they were going to at that point in the season. It did restore some faith, in how we could finish. It was just a very joyous occasion for me. Plus, one of my best mates is a Liverpool fan, so it's just great to give him some stick as well. So that's the reason for my vote.
Fair enough shout, mate. AJ, how about yourself, mate? Your vote for game of the season?
I kind of have an obligation to give it to the game that made me do a podcast in me undies. It has to be Fulham versus Liverpool, purely because I did not expect that level of performance out of us. We were at the time, only second team to beat Liverpool before they decided to go off on mid-season holidays after winning the league and play the remaining fixtures hungover. We were incredible, and as much as I love the result of the Chelsea game, I don't think we were particularly good throughout the game. I don't think we got lucky. I think we did what we needed to do to get the result, but I don't think in regards to a pure performance, anything matches what we did against Liverpool. I was so confident we wouldn't get any points that the obvious happened, and retrospectively I have to sit there and go, I was wrong. I paid my dividends for that, and it was clearly our best result of the season.
Yeah, I completely get your thing on that. For me, my vote for game of the season is, again, it's Fulham beating Brentford 2-1 at home earlier on in the season. It's great to beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Everyone knows that. My family's half Fulham, half Chelsea. Most of us have Chelsea family. At the time, I was at my in-laws on Boxing Day, and they're Chelsea. My mother-in-law's Chelsea fan, so that's one of those things, right? It's always lovely to have it. It would have been even better if we didn't score that. If I didn't see us score the winner against Chelsea because I was on my phone watching it in the toilet. But it is what it is. The Liverpool game is obviously great. It was a performance that it was superb. But there were moments in that game where Liverpool were probably a bit messy. Potentially that helped us. I think performance for me wise, that Brentford home game just stands out. I think that yes, Brentford took the lead, but it was completely against the run of play and undeserved. And we were just completely on top and we dominated. And if anyone's watched Fulham play Brentford over the last sort of 7-8 years, we don't get games like that against them very often. They're always up for it. They always, it's their big game, right? So it's one of those things that to see them perform the way they did, it's probably the reason why Summer Frank's just been made the Tottenham manager, because he'll fit in there superbly if that's the way he wants to manage. Because it was frustrating. It was probably really frustrating for them, and that just makes it even more sweeter for us. So my vote for game of the season was the Brentford game. With that, we've given game of the season to Fulham vs Liverpool, and then second place we're given to Chelsea, and then third place we're given to the Brentford game. I can't really argue with everyone sort of thinking on those games. There'll be a lot of people that especially slightly older Fulham fans, that Chelsea's the big one. I've really most of us forgot about Brentford for 15, 20 years, but it's always nice to shut them up. So that's the only reason why I voted for it. But that would be the order for me. Lads, that is the end of the Badger Awards. Thank you very much for joining me on that one. Please let us know if there's any of those you don't agree with, any you do agree with. Let us know in the comments. Please, obviously, feel free to add your own suggestions, because there's bound to be moments that we've forgotten this season, as AJ did with the Preston game. We've put an awful lot in the old painful bank and not want to think about it. So we'll let that be what that is. Lads, thank you very much for joining me this season. It's been an absolute honour. It's been great to start this season off. I did say it in the end of the season show, but I'll say it now again. Full-on, it's been a pleasure to start this season. We're hopefully on to bigger and better things coming into the new season. Some new people joining the ranks, some new shows on the go, and bringing more and more Fulham content out there, letting Drew have more and more time to moan about the things that bothers him, letting Mozza cry on the camera more and more. Hopefully less of AJ in his pants, but we'll see how
I'll
the
try my
season
best.
goes. But, thanks very much for joining me, lads. Please do come and like and subscribe to the channel, share it with your Fulham mates. I say we are hoping to bring out some new content in the next couple of weeks. The next episode from us will be a season review of last season, and then we'll look forward to the beginning of pre-season and some stuff like that. While the transfer window's shut because of the Club World Cup, there's going to be less and less sort of rumours in terms of players coming in, I'd imagine. But we'll try and give some more content on that as well. As we said earlier on in the show, if you're interested in coming and joining Ful-on as a panelist, or you've got an idea for a Fulham show you would like to make with our support, then send us an email at fulonfulham@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on TikTok. We are trying to push as much as we can. I'm going to stop boring you, let you all go enjoy your evening and some more of your holidays. We'll see you all soon. Thanks very much for joining us, and come on, you whites.